All right, Clint from the doorway too, hanging out with Dan from Shroud of Bereavement. How's it going, buddy, man? Long time no talk.
Yeah, it's been a long time, man. Oh, well, we talk on Skype. I mean, on
Yeah.
Messenger, but it's been a while. Want to thank you for your time and for the opportunity. Things have been going pretty good. Been hectic since the album's come out and stuff, but going good. How you been?
Cool. I'm doing all right, man. Like I said, same old, same old. I think we're doing the same thing, working, making music, doing, doing pretty much the same stuff, living our lives.
Yeah, I was
But
got a chance to hear some of your stuff last night. I was digging it.
cool, cool,
And
cool.
the other day, you sent me the other stuff too.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, man. So let's kind of just talk about Shroud of Bereavement, and you can kind of tell me what's been going on over the last 15 years, because there's kind of been a silent period. So,
Man, it was a long time. Well, I mean, we did the While We Mourn EP in I think 2009. Then we went on tour, but just before the tour, we decided to record the album. So we started recording it, and then we got a message from Lycanthia, who are from Australia. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna do a tour there. Do you guys want to join us? We're gonna do Deborah Doomfest and this and that." I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds cool." But in retrospect, we probably should have finished the album first. We didn't. So we got on the road, and we just got into a lot of arguments and ended up breaking up. And then I came home with my tail between my legs, had a half an album done, and then my daughter got kidnapped, and I had to follow her across the country to get her back from her mom and go to court and did a big custody battle. And at the same time, I met my new wife, so we ended up getting married. I had to get her here from another country. She got here. I started a business, then I bought a house, and finally got all the custody stuff done. And then my kids at that point were old enough to where I had time. So then I, over the last 10 years, taught myself how to make a recording studio, how to use it, how to, send shit and all this and mix it. And by the time it got all done, it was, 10 years since, just about 10 years since we started the album. It's a passion project. A lot of time went into it, and I did the best I could with what I had. So that's kind of the
cool.
rundown.
Yeah, I don't think our live story, minus the horrible kidnapping, has been any different. It was 10 years of learning how to make music by yourself, and
Yeah.
that's just the way
It
we
ain't
are
easy.
now, man. No.
It's not easy. Technology's like way beyond me. I don't know about you, but I can hardly keep up, you
Yeah,
know.
it's a struggle. It's a struggle. But let's kind of talk about the band in general as itself. I don't think the sound has changed drastically. What I think has changed is the production values and kind of the thought process behind the music more than anything. So, I mean, Alone Beside Her and A Beautiful Winter, I think they're very similar feeling records. I just think that A Beautiful Winter is more thought out, maybe more layered, maybe a little more interesting, but it's also a different time. So I kind of wanted to ask you, why still do this style of music 30 plus years later? Is it, I love it too. Like, we're Doom guys, do or die. I get it. Like, that's just kind of like where we came from, what we did. But
Hmm.
is there a reason to continue kind of very similar kind of vibe and style 10 plus years later?
Well, Shroud's been my baby for like 30 years. Because I had the album done 10 years ago, I figured
Mm.
I might as well finish it. Even though it is definitely a dying genre, like it's probably the least popular of all, is like the death doom slash symphonic, whatever classical, however you want
Yeah.
to. It's so hard to even like. Some people call it gothic, which I don't feel gothic. Like gothic to me is more happy and more like, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of major progressions and like the gothic thing to me seems kind of like Disney style. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So I like the gothic elements. I like the classical instruments and stuff, but I'm not super into that happy. If it's happy, I'm not really into it. So
Hmm.
for me, I like to stick to my death roots and still roll with it, even though it's a genre that's everybody says is dead since the Peaceful Three really. But I still love it. But I also have done other projects. I mean, I did Dark Passenger back in 2012. I've got a whole solo record that's coming out that's going to be different, but I've still got a couple Shroud things to do. So I guess I'll never quit, even though nobody follows the genre anymore. I mean, it's just me,
I
through and
got you.
through.
No, very, very, very fair. Um, I kind of think the gothic thing comes from the more kind of morose feelings that you have in your sound, and that's where they're coming from. Because a lot of people used to use the gothic doom term for the peaceville and the avant-garde bands, and then old
Mhm.
Napalm school bands, like those kind of things. Uh,
Right.
but no, I agree. I would say that Shroud of Bereavement is more of a kind of neoclassical death doom band, if I would say anything, and that's the kind of thing I want to talk about. There's a lot of lush orchestral arrangements on this record. There's a lot of clean and guttural vocals. Uh, Arranging this the way you are doing it over the last 10 years, how has it changed from the beginning to now for A Beautiful Winter? Like, do you feel it's the same creation 10 years ago as now, or do you feel like you're an older, wiser guy and you've layered things in a much different fashion?
Uh, Vocally, it kind of comes down to confidence. I
Mhm.
never really thought myself to be a good singer. I still don't. I'm not a great singer, but I try. you know, um, some of it has to do with money, just not being able to afford the orchestral instruments because this time around, I found a guy on Fiverr and I paid him, the cello guy that did all the cello stuff.
Mhm.
He did an amazing job. I wasn't even expecting. He sent me 12 to 18 different tracks of orchestrated cello stuff that he did, and I also paid a guy to do guitar solos. So this time, instead of just doing it all by myself or relying on band members who blow you off and all, that whole thing, trying to have a
Yeah.
band, people just, they're not as dedicated as the guy that makes the music. I understand. So this time I paid the people to do exactly what I wanted and they did it. And then I think the difference between the two albums or whatever is some of it has to do with money, production. Um, Alone Beside Her had a drum machine. It wasn't a live drum. Even though I could have played them, I didn't have the money at the time or a drum set. So I programmed everything. This time it's real drums in a real studio with mics, the whole thing. So I think it sounds fuller. And mix wise, we got a really good mix. This guy did a great job. It's really hard when you get so many layers, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
trying to mix them all. You're always going to lose something. It's either you're going to lose the guitar, or you're going to lose the string, or you lose the piano. So like those mids are really important. Keeping everything. I wish the guitars were still a little louder in this, but if you do that, then you lose the other stuff. So it's like, and I think I had entirely too much time to think about the layers and add so much shit. It's just like you listen to it today, like, oh, let's add this, and then before you know it, there's 900 tracks. You should have. It was a nightmare sending the tracks back and forth to the guy that was mixing, because he was a local guy, and then he ended up moving to Chile.
Oh wow.
So I had to send everything remotely, and I didn't know how to do it because I'm stupid on computers. I really have no clue what I'm doing. So to learn how to send stuff to him, and then my it was on my end. I had it all in Logic, so I had all the files. I had like 96 tracks. So to send him all those files, they were getting confused. He didn't know which ones were which, and everything. It was a total nightmare, and I can't believe the guy pulled it off with all the bullshit,
Nice.
that went on. So yeah, money, getting older, production, everything kind of stepped up, I guess you could say.
Cool. So I'm going to talk about some of the elements and the layers of Beautiful Winter that I hear. Uh, I'm an old road dog like you, man. I literally turned 50 in July, so like just
Sucks,
yeah,
man. I hate it.
yeah. So like time is moving on. But the thing I love about this record the most, and like I said, I've known you for a while, so I've known your music for a hell of a long time. But
Yeah.
I love that you're bringing back those kind of old school late 90s, early 00 kind of Peaceville vibes, which are kind of missing today.
Hmm.
Um, and it reminds me of really kind of early My Dying Bride at times. And then the other two bands that really come to me are Saturnus and Shape of Despair. And the
Oh,
reason why I say Shape of Despair is you have that, I don't know if it's an organ, a keyboard, you just have that tone that is almost funeral, but not funeral, if you know what I mean by where I'm
Mm.
going. Like it's like one step from being a funeral dirge, but it's not quite there yet. And I love that. I love those layers. When you were making this record and you were going through it, were the synths and the organ sounds and the orchestral sounds just as important as the guitars and bass, or do you feel like that is more the atmosphere of the band?
Um, that's actually a good question. I start with the piano.
Okay.
So when I arrange something, I have a few different ways. Sometimes I'll write something on the acoustic guitar first, or I'll write it on the piano, or sometimes I'll use my drum machine. I have a DR5. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah.
So you can program in the melody and then use it to arrange your songs. So that's kind of how I'll always start with the piano or a synth, or
Okay.
that's kind of like the beginning uh, canvas, I guess you could say. You lay it down and then the layers come after that. But I always have the stuff on guitar first in my mind, you know. So yeah, that's a tough one because sometimes the melody on the piano is more important than the guitar, or vice versa. Not versa. But add the strings and there's a whole nother layer. Now you're like, oh,
Yeah.
what do I follow? So I kind of look at it like a three-dimensional thing. Like it's hard to ask someone who's never heard the band to come in and listen to it and give it all of your attention, because if you're not giving it all your attention and you don't give it multiple listens, you won't get what I'm trying to do. It takes a lot from the listener, and that's another reason that I don't have a lot of fans, because a lot of people don't have the time or don't, whatever. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say this kind of music is patience and listening to it over and over again. And like I said, I the reason why it took me so long to review the album is because I listened to it 9, 10, 11 times to try
oh
and
shit.
yeah, like to kind of get to where I wanted to talk about what I wanted to talk about and what I wanted to do. So I knew but the thoughts are in my head. You can't listen to 9, 10, 15-minute long songs twice and give a really good presentation of it. It's just really hard to do.
Mhm.
And that was the other side I was going to kind of ask you about is where I feel like I know you feel like you say you're not a good singer, or that you really sometimes feel like you're lost at what you're doing. I love the way you mix the fragile and delicate with the driving and heavy. So if the acoustic guitars and those kind of minimalist synth and strings weren't there, I think that really powerful parts would be lackluster. It wouldn't have the dichotomy that it has. So when you're creating this, do you make sure that it has those ebbs and flows on all the songs going all the way through? Because this almost feels like it is very thought out, not just sort of thought out. Like track 1 goes to track 2 to goes to track 3. Like if you put track 3 where track 5 was, it wouldn't be the same record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try to always have a climax. It sometimes could be in the beginning of the song, but most of the time I try to build and just throw layers and I have ADD, so my attention span, if I'm not like getting pulled into by something new every minute, then I'm not. That's how it is for any music. If I listen to other bands, if it's like just one riff the whole time, I get bored.
Yeah.
Or not get bored, because I mean, I'm not saying people have talent. I'm not saying that, but that's my thing. It's more about me. Like I'll see something and be like, all right, I want it to come here, and then I'll build it to that. And by the time I get there, that's why the songs are so long. And like you said, if you don't listen to the first riff, you won't realize why the fifth riff is there. Or the
Yep.
fifth song even. Definitely, that's a
Cool.
that's a good analysis of what's going on in my brain for sure.
Cool. No, that's awesome. So let's kind of talk a bit about a bunch of these videos that you made for the album. Um, are you trying to tell a story, or is each one just its own individual story? I guess is the best way I'll start with.
It originally was supposed to be a whole concept album, the whole thing,
Okay.
and then the Unfamiliar Embrace, because it was released as a demo back in whenever,
Mm-hmm.
I was compelled to have to finish it and put it out the right way I wanted it. So that song just kind of doesn't fit with the rest of the album. But all the other songs are supposed to be part of one story. And visually, I thought it would be cool to have a video for every song, so that the whole thing with keeping people interested and blah blah blah. I think if you have visuals, maybe it reels you in a little more, so you can first see kind of where I'm headed, but also just to like make things more attractive,
Cool. No, awesome. So I'm gonna pick one song off the record that is one I want to talk about, and I feel like if you listen to this track, you're gonna kind of be able to understand you as an artist more than anything, and that's "Bury Me in Silence." And I really feel the reason why this is over the, I know it's hard to say, 30 goddamn plus years of making music. I hear everything you've done, not just Shrouds of Bereavement, but I hear you as an artist in that song. There is doom, there is death, there is progressive metal. There's almost classic heavy metal in that song at points in times. Can you kind of talk about "Bury Me in Silence" and how that came about? Because that seems like it encompasses your entire career to me.
Thank you for saying that. That's pretty cool for you to even notice all that stuff, That song was kind of it was meant to be the climatic part between, because I don't know if you've noticed the keys, Canticle, A Beautiful Winter, and Bury Me, all three of them are in the same key, and they all progress to that point. I ended up putting Beautiful Winter at the end. I don't know why, but I probably should have put it before, because those three songs in particular are meant to be kind of sister songs. And also another thing, I don't know, a lot of people won't notice for sure, is there's a reoccurring melody that's in every song on the album except Unfamiliar Embrace. So when that reoccurring theme really makes itself prominent is at the part when that guitar solo comes in, and then after that, when she hits all those really high melodies, she's singing. It's like a variation to the vocal thing that I was inspired to in Sorrow and Certainty, which was the Misery May. That whole thing. If you look online, there's such a cool story behind that. It's got these religious overtones, and I thought it was cool, even though I'm not really religious. I'm spiritual, I guess you could say, but I don't believe in a God. But the whole thing is about that recurring theme and cementing that, and it kind of blows up in your face in the middle of that song. And that's like the precipice of the whole rest of all the progressions, I guess.
Cool. No, awesome. So let's take it in a different angle. And I kind of want to, I always love to get the thought process of the person that created it and kind of see what they're going to say. So let's say someone's about to listen to Shroud of Bereavement for the very, very first time. All right. In 4 words, how would you describe your band?
Oh, wow. That's hard, man. That's please be patient, dude.
That's cool. No, that's awesome. I love that. Very cool. So I guess taking it off of that, do you feel you are more a doom band, or do you feel you're more of a death metal band? Like, which one do you, because the reason why I ask this is there is a very yin and yang to this. Like, there are at times where the doom goes away and you become a full death metal kind of force. And then at times there's these romantic, dark, beautiful, doomy passages. Which one do you, now I understand you make both kinds of music, but if you were to gravitate to one, which one do you gravitate to more?
Wow. I would say I would have to stick with my roots, and that's death metal. I've been a death metal guy since 87, 88. I hate when bands stop being death metal.
Yeah.
Like there's exceptions, like Anathema, their first album was Death Doom. It was amazing. And then they went off and turned it to something else, but it's very, very emotionally powerful. I still dig them, even their new albums, But, the minute you lose your roots and you're not death metal anymore, then you're lame to me. Not totally, but, like you got
to makes sense.
Yeah, I've always been a death metal singer. I mean, I started singing death metal when I was like freshman in high school. So it's been a long time, like you just said, where you're a little older than me, but I'm nearing 50 myself. I'm 46.
Yeah.
So that's a long time ago. And I'll never abandon the death metal side. I'll never try to sell out. Not that you can sell out in metal. That's another thing that gets me. Like, people are like, oh, they sold out. Like, how do they sell out? They get better production. Like, now they sold out. There's no money. You're not going to make money in metal. It doesn't matter how hard you try. Like Dia said, they're still working. They still get jobs outside of. So, like those. Sorry, I'm like stealing the conversation. I
No,
just
do
wanted
it.
to.
Do it.
I just want to say, like, you got a lot of those elitists out there that are just like, whoa, that was, I don't know. That thing like frustrates me. Like, I'm not an elitist. I like what I like. I've always liked what I like, and I'll always stand behind it. But I'll never throw someone in some category just because society says they should, or because the scenesters say they should, or what. We could talk about that for 2 hours. I'll just leave
No,
it at
no,
that.
no, no. That's absolutely fair. I feel the same way. Like when people say, "Oh, these giant death metal bands," and then just for instance, like I go see Carcass at a club with 300 people.
Yeah,
How
they
are they?
sold out.
Yeah, how are they? How are they this giant death metal band? They're still playing clubs at 60. Like, come on, man. No.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, no. I totally get your vibe, man. I'm with that all the way. Yeah, because somebody wanted to give you a little extra money to make the record sound better, sound fuller, sound stronger. Nah,
Mhm.
at the roots, yeah, death metal is where all of this came from. I totally
Absolutely.
agree. Like, if there wasn't punk rock and death metal, none of us would exist. Like, it literally just,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just literally what we are.
If you want to go
So,
further back, without Mozart, we wouldn't have any of this either,
right.
though.
Well, classical music as well, yeah, because I mean, what is metal but classical music with distortion pedals? Like, let's just
Absolutely.
let's
Hell
just
yeah.
yeah, let's just be honest. They were the dark, disturbing music of their time. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
riots were held if they played the wrong chords, man.
Right, right.
You know?
Uh, so let's move on to a different thing. And where do you see the metal scene in 2022? And I know this is kind of a controversial question for folks like us that we've had highs and lows and ups and downs.
Hmm.
And I played in front of thousands and I played in front of tens. Like, like I totally get it. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But where do you see the metal scene in 2022? Is there a rebirth, like not so much in sales, but in people loving what they hear and more fans? Or do you feel like it's kind of just who it is now?
I'm surprised it's still going. I mean, this was supposed to be like a, FU to
Right.
everybody, and now it's accepted. And you get, I don't want to go too political on this, but you get a lot of these like woke people that are like in the scene now, and they're like trying to, call the, I don't know, the social police.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy's a racist. This guy's that. The whole scene was supposed to be about rebelling, like rebelling about against the system, and people are just like, oh, let's embrace the system now. Like, I don't understand. It's weird. So you get that element, and then you also got technology wise. It's now to the point where you can just click, and if you don't like it within 30 seconds, you move on. And there's so much
Right.
music that's forgotten instantly because of that. That's really disturbing, but it's also helping grow the scene because it's so much reach now. There's people that never would have liked metal because they were turned on to it because they never would have been turned on to it before. So I think the scene's stronger than it was in a respect of getting it, being able to get it. But I think it's weaker now because of all the politics and division and woke and all the stuff that's going on. People have gone so literal with it that you can't even enjoy anything without being afraid that, oh, if I like that band, I'll be called a racist or something. Not
Yeah.
even, I mean, there are racist bands out there. I'm not saying that. There's
Oh
definitely
yeah.
bands that I would not want to hear because they're actually racist. But I mean, if someone talking about how they love their country, now they're considered a terrorist, you know what I mean? All that stuff. Or if he
Horrible.
said the wrong word that offended someone, or if he used the wrong imagery, all these bands are getting, I'm hearing labels are getting banned, blacklisted with the whole roster, all the bands, all this stuff's happening. And it's like, it's scary and it's bullshit, you know?
Yeah, I'm not going to name names, but a friend of mine's label literally had to shut down simply because one of their bands was considered not politically correct.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah, so
horrible.
no, and I am gonna throw a name out there because I'm really pissed off about this. And I used to love Machine Head. Okay, like I thought Machine Head early on made some of the best thrash classic metal there is. But I mean, that singer has literally gotten to a point now where everything is political. And I can't even listen to that band anymore for that exact reason. Like, don't start throwing Black Lives Matter things into thrash metal. Like, that doesn't need to be there, okay? This is a bunch of guys from the and women from the age of 15 to 50 that just want to go have a good time, run around, release their aggression and their tension, go home and say, like, I got to watch a kick-ass show. Like,
Yeah,
literally, that's what the world needs to be again. And I appreciate you kind of saying that kind of stuff.
I agree with you,
On
man.
Yeah, on that side, you started your own label. Willow Soul. So let's talk a bit about that and why do everything yourself and not try and look for a label versus doing it all yourself today. Is it literally easy enough for you to be able to get it out there? I guess is the best question I'm going to say.
Well, the label's at its infancy. I still have no clue what I'm doing. I'm just kind of I'm coming up right now, and I'm just like, you know what? Like, I don't know, 7, 8 months ago, I sent out some emails to people saying, "Hey, it's been 10 years. I want to put my music out. Are you interested?" You know, that kind of thing. And nobody got back to me. Nobody, zero, except for the people at Solitude who I was talking to. We had a relationship over the years. We used to trade and stuff, and they were going to do it. The Ukraine thing happened, and they closed their
Yeah.
doors, so that label's gone. Which I thought they were kind of a perfect fit. I wish they had better distribution, but I thought my music kind of fit on their roster. It wouldn't be totally out, you know.
Mhm.
But I don't. I mean, I'm not opposed to leasing the album through another label because I certainly don't want to do all that work by myself. I hate mailing shit. I hate sending packages because I have OCD on top of ADD. So like if I have customers waiting, it eats me up. I feel
Mhm.
really bad. I'm like, oh, I forgot those. I can't get to the post office or whatever. And then you're like spending your whole day over there. Or now I'm beating myself because I didn't get to send the stuff, and all the shipping's wicked expensive, and I hate doing paperwork and signing all those international forms. I'll do it, but I hate doing that. At the same time, why let someone else own my rights of something that I just spent
Yeah.
a decade on? So the big thing was I want to retain the rights to everything, especially digitally, because Alone Beside Her is available digitally on Spotify and all those, but I don't own them. I have no control over them, and now I'm competing with myself. So if you type in Shroud of Bereavement on any of those download sites or stream sites, that one comes up before mine. It's like,
Ah.
really? So nobody can in the beginning. Now that we have more followers than that does, even though that's been up for 10 years, I don't know how I have more followers already, but it's cool. I'm not, it's awesome. But, like you would get Alone Beside Her and you couldn't find A Beautiful Winter or While We Mourn because I put that up as well. So I'm thinking about putting Alone Beside Her out on my
Mhm.
label, through all the download stuff and just beating that thing right into the dust because I don't want to compete with a label that never gave me a penny to begin with.
Right.
So that's another thing. I've been screwed over by a few labels now. I don't want to deal with that. If I'm going to make nothing, I want to have control of my nothing. you know.
Oh, I absolutely understand. Coming from that, that's why I ran a record label for 7 years and put 23 records out for like 15 different artists because I felt the same way. Uh, People were getting screwed over. I got royally screwed by two record labels myself. I completely understand. And I am going to give props to two labels out there that that I will say to this day they're my brothers. They still release my slumbering albums, and that's Aesthetic Death and Trepanation. Dan and Stu on those two labels. You want true, genuine folks like you and I, that's them. They uh, I've never even signed a contract with either one of them. They literally just said, we're going to put it out. I'll send you this amount. We'll do a 50-50 split. This is the way it's always going to be. You don't have to worry about it. If I don't want to do it, I'll just tell you I don't want to do it. Like, and I
Yeah.
love that. I love that kind of world. And I feel like that's really what you're trying to do here is kind of have that grassroots Let's make sure that everything's in-house and taken care of. So
Yeah, absolutely. We did that same kind of thing with Oaknall. He was actually really cool.
nice.
He was just like a skeezy kind of guy behind the scenes. I
Ah,
hate to talk shit about him, but man, he used to hit on everybody's wife, and that was not cool. Behind everybody's back, you know what I'm saying? I didn't
yeah,
like, but he's like, hey man, we're not going to sign a contract. I'll press this many, and you can get half, and that was it, which was
perfect.
cool. That was cool. So we had a good experience with that stuff, but personality wise, we didn't get
Very
along in that
different.
way. But I wish him the
Yeah,
best. He was an okay guy to me. I just didn't like the sneaky shit,
yeah,
you know. But
very
yeah,
cool.
those other two labels, I'm gonna check out some of this stuff because honestly, I was out of the scene for 10 years. I don't know anything anymore. Like the new band, I haven't heard any bands in 10 years. I don't know what labels or what. I lost all my contacts. Like
Yeah,
we were talking about that yesterday. I told you that a little bit. All my contacts, I have like a email from back when Olympus Cider came on. There's probably, I don't know, 2,000 emails in there
yeah,
of all the people I used to trade with. I have all the messages and stuff. And you try to message, like reach out, be like, hey man, nobody works there anymore, or they're dead, or they're retired, or they're just gone. So the emails don't work. So that was another reason when I was trying to sign with a label before I started my own. Nobody was getting back to me because they're gone, or I'm
yeah,
old, or whatever.
yeah. No, the new guard has moved in. I completely understand.
Totally.
Um, so let's talk about feedback and uh, critiques you've gotten so far for A Beautiful Winter. Is there anything that's kind of shocked you that you've heard so far from like reviews or people that you never really thought of before, but like when you saw that write up or review that you're like, damn, okay, they hear something I didn't hear.
Um, Shocking. I wouldn't say shocking, but honestly, like you did that video reaction review kind of thing. I don't know if it's what you would call it, a review or a reaction or.
It's a reaction, yeah.
I was really humbled and blown away, and it made my day. I was really happy. I'm like, this guy gets it. He actually understands. You got to listen to it, and you listen to it, and then you were like, okay, you were
Yeah.
pretty much spot on with everything. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people, I paid for some promotion, and they sent me a lot this time around. We got a lot of reviews, a lot of, well, not we. I guess I got a lot of reviews and interviews and whatnot, but it seems like the reviews nowadays are not the same, or
No.
maybe it's a product of our environment where I was talking about earlier where people don't have the attention span. But like I was looking the other day through all my emails and stuff, and I have a ton of old reviews from when I did Of Ages and all the other releases. And they're eloquent. They're like, oh, I can picture myself going through a rainy forest with
Yeah,
trees.
yeah.
And there's none of that anymore. Now it's just like, oh, it's cool. There's some good moments, but it's boring. Fuck this album, whatever. That's pretty much what they're doing. Like nobody has the time to even listen. You can tell when someone's reviewing something if they have actually listened to it,
Yeah.
or if they're just doing it because they're in a group that's saying you have to interview this band and this band, and they do it because they have to, not because they love the style, not because they want to give it a chance. So I've had mixed. I've had there's a couple that were really cool and very gracious and nice and stuff. But for the most part, people are like, "Oh, it's boring. It doesn't go anywhere." Blah blah blah, and it's cool. That's their opinion. I'm totally cool with constructive criticism.
Yeah.
You know, but I just feel like people are rushing through, so they're not giving it the chance that it deserves. I feel this is my best work. You know, but
I wouldn't be doing an interview with you if I didn't think it was your best work, my friend.
I
So yeah,
appreciate it, man.
yeah,
I
yeah.
really.
But so you're working with Zach at Metal Devastation, right? Doing PR work.
Yes, he's
Uh,
awesome, man. He's such a cool
dude,
guy.
he's done 5 of my releases, so I completely
Really?
understand. I love the dude. He's always been helpful. He got me ton of interviews on the radio, got me radio play. Like that guy is one of the genuine ones out there. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't do it because he has to. He does it because he loves it. Like literally, you can like when you talk to him, that's the way he is. I did an interview on his radio show for 2 of my bands, and like that guy is just genuine article. So I want to
Yeah.
give props to Zach because when I saw him working with you, it made me smile because I was like, Dan got the right guy to help him out. Like that's literally what it was.
Oh, you can't say enough good things about him. He's so enthusiastic. In that Metal Devastation festival that he's doing,
Yeah.
that whole thing, like all the stuff that he's dealing with, the church, it's
Yeah.
awesome, man. That guy's so pumped up, and his radio station's really cool. He's always like,
Yeah.
definitely genuine, awesome, cool guy. I'm happy to be working with him for sure.
Cool. Um, So let's talk about specifically Shroud of Bereavement right now.
Mhm.
Okay. Over the last 4 decades, moving from where you were to A Beautiful Winter, uh, if you were to say, what was your biggest standout moment? Like, what's your biggest, happiest moment about this project? What would it be that you've had over these last couple decades?
Oh wow. Are you saying like release wise or like things we've done like
No,
shows or
any
something or?
anything that like you would say is your proudest achievement. I don't care if it's a show you played. I don't care if it's a song you wrote. I don't care if it's somebody that came up on stage and performed with. I don't care. Like, what's the it made it all worthwhile for that moment.
Oh, there's a couple. The
Yeah.
biggest one though, I would say my biggest one is the fact that I met my wife through my music. My
Nice.
wife lives in Europe or lived. She used to live in Romania. And one day I got an email, not an email. It was, I think it was, what is it? Bandcamp? No, MySpace. Back on
Okay.
MySpace. That's how old I am. I remember MySpace. But I got a message on MySpace from her saying, "Oh, you sing for my favorite band." Blah blah blah. We started talking. I'm like, "Really?" I was like so humbled. I'm like, "Oh, I want to marry you," kidding around, just because she said I was her favorite band or whatever. And we ended up getting married, and she moved here, and we are together. And my life is the way it is because of her, because of my song "A Rose for a Dying Muse." So that song was written for my best friend who died. I wrote that song in tears. It took me a year to make that song, so that was a proud moment to begin with.
Nice.
And then on top of that, I met my wife from it, and my beautiful mother. Everything about my wife's awesome. Uh, so I guess I'll have to say that song, "A Rose for Dying Muse." Plus, that is the song that got us in the scene. Really, like doommetal.com was really helping me when
Mhm.
that came out, and a lot of people were into it. So I guess that song would be my proudest moment.
Nice. Cool. Is there anything that you would do differently right now, looking back today versus making the first record?
Yeah. Oh, so many things like that song we just "A Rose for a Dying." That whole album. I would have used a live drum set. I got so much shit for using a drum machine.
Gotcha.
I wish I did it differently. Like I could. That's the thing that sucks is I'm a drummer, man. I've been playing drums since I was 11. I could play every bit on anytime I could play all the drums on that. Wish I did that differently. I wished I chose band members a little more wisely because I picked some real winners.
We all
Uh,
have.
yeah, unreliable people that blow you off last minute. Happens so many times, and that's why I don't want to do a live band anymore. I'm so jaded from people that have screwed me over and band rent not getting paid, people not showing up, blowing you off, all that stuff. So those are the kind of the two biggest things I would say for me.
Cool. No, that's awesome. I will give you one horror story, as you just gave me a horror story. So when Long Winter Stare was touring and we were signed to Dark Symphonies, we played a whole bunch of fests, played all over, and we played the Milwaukee Metal Fest, and we played right before Anathema in front of like
Hell yeah,
3,800 people. It was phenomenal.
that's
Okay,
amazing.
probably like one of my proudest moments.
Dream come true.
Yeah, 2 hours before I was on a panel with the guys from Anathema talking, and then later that night, it literally was November's Doom, us, and Anathema. That was the three
Hell
bands
yeah.
back to back. And so Paul and I were chatting and being all chummy from November's Doom,
Paul's
and
amazing.
all.
What a
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. So like another guy I've known for God 30 plus years too. Jesus.
Hell
But
yeah.
anyway, so we get finished with the show. The record label's ecstatic because we just played in front of 3,000 people. We start driving home, and there's the three of us. And ironically, you and I both have the same female singer for a while. So,
Uh-huh. Deidre, yeah.
so we're driving home, and there's this weird silence. And Deidre kind of says, like, I don't know what's going on, but there's this weird vibe with the other band member. And I said, okay, let's just kind of like we're going from Milwaukee, playing, we're doing a couple shows, coming back, and everything seems to be fine. We lived in Rhode Island at the time, so we get home, and literally we drop her off to her apartment, and he lives with me, the other band member at the time. We had a house in Rhode Island, and as we're unloading the truck, he literally goes, and I'm not politically correct in any way, shape, or form, so I'm just gonna say he starts hucking his shit down our basement. And he's like, I fucking hate metal. I hate you. I quit. That
Oh,
is
no
that
way.
that is the way Long Winter Stare ended.
Oh,
literally at that moment. That's exactly how it ended.
oh shit, dude.
Yeah. So I understand exactly how you feel. I understand how it is, because that was the day that metal died for me. Because I was literally
Yeah,
signed to a record label, selling records, just played the Milwaukee Metal Fest, and this is
at
how it
your
ended.
high right there.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I totally understand your dilemma with artists and musicians and working with them.
that's what we call
Um.
the kicking balls.
Yeah.
You know?
Uh, two, I'll never forget it. 2000. It was over, man.
Oh,
um, but on that, would you want to work with other artists more than just kind of hired guns, or are you always going to keep this uh, Dan's project and have friends and just associates work with it?
regarding just Shroud, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, just me. I'll have. I mean, if friends want to join me, cool, and if they have ideas, cool. Nobody's ever really come in and like written a song with me. I always kind of just present it to
Gotcha.
people, you know. But if someone was, I would love to have like a drummer or a guitarist come over to help me arrange and write songs, and
Mhm.
you know, I'd be open with it. But at the same time, I don't know that I'll ever do a live band again for sure. If someone said, "Hey, My Dying Bride wants you to open for him at some festival
Yeah.
in Belgium," I'd be like, "Clint, grab a guitar, you're on my band. Let's go." You know, I'd do that.
You wouldn't even have to ask me. You could just say, you're coming up, right? And I'd be like, hell yeah, I'm coming up. Let's make this happen.
Absolutely, man. Like that's I guess that's one of the only goals I never really achieved with this band is being able to play out of the country. Everything else I've kind of and I want to put a vinyl out someday. Other than that, I've got all my goals for the most part. But I'd love to, it'd be cool if you were in my band, and dude, and we just went to some
Right.
European country and played some fest. Hell yeah, I'd play in your band too if you asked me. Just
I would hope so. And if it ever happens, guess what? It's an invitation to you as well, too.
I'm in, kid, for sure. Sure.
um, cool. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to end it here like this and kind of say, tell us about what you're doing, any new projects, anything that's going on. Talk about the other things you're doing as well. Kind of tell us what the next 6 months to a year for Dan and his musical world is going to be.
Okay, cool, man. Yeah. There's actually a lot of stuff, so this might take a little time.
That's cool.
And I was actually gonna at some point talk to you about the first thing, which is the new project, Still the Seas, which is something that I've been working on for 10 years, but it's more like I got an idea, I put it on the back shelf, and then I do Shroud, and then I forget about it, or it's been going since Dark Passenger, really. Where it started was, I don't know if you know Justin from Morgion, or used to be in
Yeah.
Morgion, whatever.
Oh yeah.
Him and we toured together back in '05 with King of the Crow, that whole thing. And
Yeah.
started a side project. Well, we talked about starting this side project. And so I wrote a bunch of riffs and we finally did start. It fell apart. And then I just kind of am stuck with the songs. So now I have those 3 or 4 songs plus 10 years of ideas that I've been throwing in the heap of
Mhm.
riffs. And so that is going to happen at some point. I just need someone to help. I just can't do it alone. It's just so boring and so much work, you know. But that will happen hopefully in the next year. That's going to be kind of like Wild Honey era Tiamat
Oh
meets.
wow.
I love that. It's one of my favorite albums ever. With the space of like Third and Immortal, not the female singing, but I mean how open the first 2 records were, really spacey. I
Yeah.
want it to be spacey and moody, and maybe with some like Damnation from Opeth, like a lot of acoustic driving kind of stuff. So
Gotcha.
those 3, that's kind of where I'm in. Anathema, of course. Well, of course,
Yeah.
So that's that project. It's going to be called Still the Seas. I have some working demos. I could send you some shit at some point too if you're
Yeah.
interested. I know you're busy, so maybe there's that. And then if anybody knows our album of Ages, the first one we did with Oak Knoll, the
Mhm.
demo compilation of demos or whatever, I'm re-recording that whole album. That's being done right now. Uh, it's going to be a weird process because I'm going to use electronic drums because I don't feel like dealing with miking because I know the
Yeah.
process is going to take 10 years. So when you go to mic something, you do one song and then you leave. Now the mic's set up differently. You get a different drum sound, all that shit. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to use the electronic. I'm going to play all the drums physically and choose cool sounds. And, that album's like 70% done. All the pianos are done. All the drums are done. Bass is not done. Guitars are a little bit done. Some of the vocals. So it's in various forms. So there's that. I got 2 more videos that I'm working on for this album, Beautiful Winter, and I'm doing a Shroud of Bereavement DVD, which is going to be like 2 hours of stupid behind the scenes partying and just dumb, stupid shit, and then also us in the studio, live stuff, and all kinds of cool shit. So I've been working on that, and what sucks about that is I had it like 85% done, and then I went to like make space on my computer and accidentally deleted it, so I have to start it over, which sucks. I've had like so many hours into that. So there's that also, and the label is going on too, and I'm talking about maybe working with some other bands locally. I don't know yet. Right now I'm just trying to get Shroud out, and maybe there may be another Dark Passenger album, possibly. So that's my list of shit that I'm doing. How about you?
Jesus.
You're doing a bunch. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I got a new Slumbering record coming out on Trepanation and Aesthetic Death next year. Working on the 4th one of that one. That's my 3rd. I got a band called Ronwi, which I sent you, which is kind of like death thrash, I guess is the best way to kind of say it, with
a lot
power,
of elements, a little bit.
Yeah, with like power metal elements built into it. It's very synth heavy. It's not going to be what people really expect from me because it's not what I normally do. And then I got an indie rock band that I do with my buddy Ryan called Idiot Robot that I played you the other day, which you kind of said was cool. So I dug that. That was nice.
I thought that was excellent, man.
Yeah.
Seriously, like really unique, and I wasn't expecting that from you. So it was cool. For sure.
Cool. Yeah. It's just kind of me and my buddy Ryan reliving our high school and 20s of loving grunge and indie music of that time frame. So that's kind of what it is, throwing some old punk rock stuff into it. But yeah, doing that. I don't know, doing this thing, reviewing bands, interviewing bands. Living in Florida, having it rain every single day. I don't know, man. That's just kind of like it's kind of what it is. I did a 2,300-mile trek from living in Arizona for 10 years, 12 years, moved to Florida. So
what made you do that, by the way? What made the change happen?
Political climate.
Really?
More than I am a very conservative individual like yourself, my friend.
Yes.
Okay. Arizona has turned into a very, very purple, blue-leaning state, and I did not like what it was. And I am a fan of Florida and their ideas, so I said,
DeSantis is the man.
Yeah, so I came here and kind of here right now and feeling it out and seeing it. You know, that's kind of what it was. But yeah,
are you liking it?
I don't know. It's very different than what I expected. It's really overcrowded. Everybody's moved here, and I think that's a big problem. Where there's too many people here now, and I think that's kind of a problem. Otherwise, like where I live, yes, I love. Like the area I live in is phenomenal. It's quiet. It's a nice upper middle class area. Like it's nice. Like there's nothing wrong with it.
Hell yeah.
I just feel like, again, probably being too political, but too many New Yorkers and too many Chicago folks here for me right
yeah, we got a lot of assholes in New Hampshire.
Yeah, so you know exactly where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
But
you know what's funny though is they flee their state because of the policies, and then they come here and vote for the same policies. It makes no sense to me.
What's happening here exactly too? Kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, no. I got a good job, been there 4 years. I'm an IT manager for an IT company. So like,
nice.
So like, I have a team of like, personally a team of 17, but I oversee a team of about 60. So like I said, like I said, we do high-end credit card terminals and back-end server stuff. So it's the nerd side in me, like I love computers and I love IT and stuff like that. I've been doing that. That's kind of where I fell after music was no longer profitable. Like, you know what I'm
Understood.
saying? Like, you went into the construction game, I went into the IT game, kind of like what it was,
Yeah, I got a famous saying. I quit school to become a rock star, and I am now a rock star. I lift rocks every day.
Yep. Yeah. Your masonry world and my IT world. That's kind of what it is. But other than that, no. And that's kind of where I'm at. But from there, I just like to say, you made a great record. I feel like it would be lesser in the world if I didn't get to hear it. It's something that moved me when I heard it, so that's why I reviewed it. That's why I wanted to talk to you. Have always thought that you were a genuinely decent human being. Otherwise, I would not have done this. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of the way it is. I've met a lot of assholes in my lifetime. I've met a lot of decent people in my lifetime, and I try and stick with the people that aren't assholes, if you know what I mean. Like that's kind of the way of the world. So, but other than that, keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to hear the new stuff. And again, Clint for the Doorway 2, hanging out with Dan from Shroud of Bereavement and many other things that are upcoming. But other than that, man, thank you for doing the music you do, and I will keep supporting you.
Thanks so much for your time, and best of luck to you, the channel, all your bands, everything you're doing, man. You're needed in the scene. You know, we need more, not only like normal minded people that are old school, but we also politically kind of need to stick together. You know what I'm saying? You know,
absolutely.
like really, it's sad, but it's become so divided that, you know, the scene itself is just kind of crumbling away. You know, we're fighting each other, and it's stupid. Stupid. We need to help each other more. Stick together. Work as a scene. That's what a scene is. You know.
Oh yeah,
But,
I miss the late '90s, early 2000s. It was a much different world and time. So
absolutely, it really was, man. It was. So thanks again, man. I know you're busy. I'll let you do your thing. Thanks a lot. If there's anything I can do to help you, you got any stuff you want me to push? Like, send it to me, man. I'll share it gladly, and you know, we'll help each other as much as we can. And
always,
do you have a copy of? Do you have an actual copy of my album?
No, I have a digital copy. That's it.
Send me your address, and I'll send you one.
I absolutely will. I absolutely will. Again, cool, man. Dan, pleasure, man. Good speaking with you. You have a great weekend.
You too, man. Thank you so much. Hell yeah.